Welcome everybody. Hi Jeremy, good to see you here. And Tamsin, welcome back. And everyone else who's just joined, welcome. This is what we're all talking about today, the future of wellbeing. Quite a big question, but today we have an opportunity to get quite practical and talk about making it happen. I'll just give a quick introduction as how I think it's going to work. But as I said, Hazel and Karen will then talk about how they have made it happen. And what I want to move towards is how can they help us to make it happen more in our communities and our networks. We'll have a chance to get into breakout groups for a good 20-minute conversation. We'll probably just get into 2 groups. There'll be a reasonable sized group. So we won't have a chance probably as previous meetings to introduce each other individually at length, but I want you to have a chance to speak to Karen and Hazel directly. So we'll have those breakout groups for you to just unpack what you've heard them talk about. And then we'll reconvene in plenary in about an hour's time, maybe an hour and a quarter. So we've got time just to hear back from the groups and wrap up. I can't see everyone on the screen now, but do give me a shout or put something in chat if there's anything else you want to cover or talk about or anything else that you think should be included today. But otherwise, that's the plan. And just to say, I'm also recording this meeting just for posterity, but also it's useful for me to have a record. The recording's on my computer, not on the cloud. And if anyone doesn't want to be in any way shared, just let me know, or you can always turn your camera off at any point. I do intend at some point to cut out some clips, but it'll probably be of me talking rather than of anyone else. But if you're concerned about it in any way, let me know. But I do want to be able to share some of the pearls of wisdom that might get shared today. So I hope that's okay, but we can talk about that some more if you're concerned at all. Good. Well, if everyone's happy with that for the time being, let me talk about the 2 magic ingredients I think are emerging in my mind. Now, I'm no expert, and these are both ideas that are quite new to me. Well, I guess networks and communities is evolving, as you can see. Rather than talking about networks like I did last time, I want to be more specific. But health creation is quite a new idea on me, but it's, to my mind, the most sensible expression of going back upstream beyond prevention. So we've been wondering for a long time, lots of people, how to prevent disease and ill health. I think the conversation that's happening a bit further upstream, how do we create health in the first place so that prevention doesn't even need to be talked about, is a set of concepts which we'll unpack a bit more. And to do the first one, this was an idea I saw in a presentation from the NHS public health sort of department a while back, that there's a sort of triangle of managing public health, that if you're not careful, people move up the triangle and move from being healthy to being at risk, to then needing to manage health conditions and eventually needing sort of care, and ultimately sort of, if they're terminally ill, care in that situation as well. Now, the first thing I was really quite shocked about was that in Cornwall, there are less healthy people than there are people in the at-risk category. And that, to me, in a population of whatever it is, 500,000 people, you know, there's only 80,000 people that are healthy. I thought this cannot be right, and this is not good. But it's an opportunity, and if we know how to manage these things, which we all do, we must be able to do something about it. So that is a really urgent sort of platform for change in my book. And in terms of how to do about it, it's complicated. Public health is not, this is another thing I've learned in the last few years, it's not a simple matter. But there are a few things which I think we can do. One is, I think let's turn that triangle upside down and actually, because we can in communities, focus on health. And it's not to ignore or deny that there is ill health and there are people that need care at all stages of the triangle. But let's turn it upside down and look at what works in communities and how do we create health? How do we keep ourselves healthy? How do we look after ourselves and look after each other? And let's celebrate some of those things and magnify and amplify those. And this happens in communities. Communities are very good at it. We all know how to do it. We love doing it. People are very happy when they do it. So there's a lot of potential win-win-wins, I think, in this situation. So, as I say, I'm no expert, but that's a sort of feeling of where I am going with all of this and where I think we and the CornWELL community and the communities in which we're connected have a role to play. That's in a nutshell, health creation. The other thing I spoke about last time was something I'm learning more about, which is small world networks, which I think very much applies to communities, and it certainly applies to how viruses spread in communities, but it also very much applies to how ideas spread and can spread in communities. And obviously when communities are not connected, things don't spread. But counterintuitively, perhaps, when communities are over-connected or too strongly connected, you form cliques and echo chambers through which ideas don't spread. And there's a magic sort of in between where some of the network connections are weak or possibly non-existent, just not connected, but some of them are strong. So there's a sort of a Goldilocks in between stage where ideas and information and stories and progress and health factors can flow. Now, in technical terms, there's a new field that's been around for 10 or 15 years, but not much longer than that, called social network analysis. In technical terms, they're called small world networks. But I think that really represents what communities are really good at. You can't control it, you can't make it happen, but communities naturally form their own small world networks, hence, I suppose, the name. And if we can help that to happen, and maybe they've become over-connected or too disconnected, I don't know, but if we can help more small world networks to happen, or at least to celebrate the ones that already exist, that's something we can do, and I think something that can have a huge impact on health outcomes. Possibly not, and this is where the complexity comes in, maybe not health or wellbeing outcomes that we can control or even predict, but it doesn't mean that we can't have a positive impact on them. So I think these small world networks are really important. Now, when it comes to CornWELL, I've always felt that one of the opportunities and the things we're good at is connecting people from different sectors, because we just sort of are in different sectors. And it's always been part of my aim, but to do that in ways that are a bit easier than, because I know that within sectors, people have been saying, oh, we need to have more integrated care and we need to work across boundaries more. And it sort of feels like a lot of hard work and a lot of talk that doesn't get done. So I was looking for easier ways of doing this. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, what do these sectors even look like? And do they really exist? Because we're all in the community sector. People that work in any sector are members of communities. And actually, probably people's work doesn't fit quite as neatly and easily into one or other sector anyway. People have got more than one job, or they exist in families which exist in more than one sector. So the conversations that actually make a difference don't fit very nicely or easily into particular sectors. And then you look at the people actually organising and working in these sectors, and you find that people like the Eden Project, us, some of our private practitioners, the council, nothing really fits neatly into a sector. We are already crossing boundaries. And so I'm starting to think, what if there's a way of looking differently at communities, and rather than using sector as a thing at all, why don't we look at the connections that exist? You know, the Eden Project works across all sorts of different sectors of the community, and those connections are what really make it work. And that's the same for CornWELL and the same for a lot of our work, I think, that we individually do. So what if we actually looked at it differently and looked at the connections between those things rather than which sector they might happen to fit in? And I don't know the answer to this, but I want to start understanding it more, because I think when you look at those connections and the conversations that happen, or the trust between them, you start to identify different communities that already exist or different communities that are growing. And in the field of network analysis, there is a topic called community discovery, which I only literally just learned about this week. But I think that's what we're doing here at CornWELL, is community discovery, and maybe community celebration and community amplification. But you know, what's going on in Camborne Health Towns or Camborne Doing Well, some of the citizen forum groups that are being set up in Perranporth, and now we're looking at doing them in Newquay, other community movements that are going on. Hazel and Karen are about to describe something that will somehow fit into this picture. I think they're really, really important and can be more visible. So finally, when it comes to the theory of change for CornWELL, as we are CornWELL, we're a loose organization, but nevertheless a powerful system. I think our task is to discover communities. Where are they? What do they look like? to amplify the conversations that might be helpful in those and to strengthen the connections. But if we can identify those, I do think we can have a positive impact on actually maybe not solving problems, but facilitating problems being solved. Because I think what we can organise as a sort of collective here as CornWELL is the top half, and then what needs to self-organise, because it never can be and never should be over-organised, because that stops it happening, because it's complex and it's all networks. But I do think we can have an influence on well-being, problems being solved, on opportunities being identified, and therefore on well-being being improved. Now, Ruth here is from the Inclusivity Project at the University of Exeter. We're going to be working, starting now, on what does that actually all mean, and is it possible, and how much of that can we achieve? But we are going to be definitely working on the top half of that, and in an ideal world, well, we're really intending to try and measure the impact that we have on well-being as well, even though we don't directly necessarily control those impacts. But I know that people come away from these conversations saying, yes, I've had some conversations on the back of that, and yes, we have done some things. So I know we're making a change, and I know we can't control that, but I think it's still good to draw attention to all of that. So that's what we're all about. I'm sorry I've probably spoken for a bit of time, and I don't want to take any more time from the real business of where positive change is actually happening. Maybe questions on this, please write them down or throw them in the chat, or we can talk about them in the breakout groups. But we'll probably come back to this conversation and make more sense of it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. But in summary, for my money, the future of wellbeing is in our communities. It already exists, it's already out there, it's already happening. We've known how to do it for thousands of years. We probably know how to do it for another few thousands of years. And I think together we can figure out what that means, and we can help that to move in a really positive direction. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe. And we will keep you posted as the story of CornWELL and community wellbeing unfolds into the future.